work session for October 3rd, 2017. The time is approximately 4:03. I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Santiago?
Here.
Commissioner Ennis? Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Preca-Camperi?
Here.
Commissioner Sui?
Here.
You all stand, please. Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's stand for a minute, please, for all the disasters that have happened around the United States and also outside the United States. Thank you. You may sit down. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with the Open Meeting Act of 1975, was advertised, posted, and made available to the public as required by law. The municipal clerk is directed to include a statement in the minutes of this meeting. Madam Clerk, are there any review changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor. Item 11.2, proposals for insurer record of broker for health benefits was added as a discussion item to the work session.
Okay. And we have representatives here. They're going to talk about that, or just Commissioner?
I think we have representatives from FEMA that are here, Mayor.
Yes.
No, for that one, yes, they're
For
all
this
here.
one?
Correct.
All right. Good. All right. Thank you. What we'll do is we'll go right into people that are here to talk for us. And I know that Sherman Taylor's here, our OEM, and he's going to introduce someone from FEMA. Commissioner Ennis was running late. I don't think he'll be here for this meeting, but he'll be here for 6:30. Sherman?
Commissioner Ennis approached me with everything that's going on as far as the hurricanes and the devastation and stuff like that. He approached me and asked if I would be willing to come and talk about emergency preparedness within the city, and he stressed a need for FEMA to come in as well to give like an overall touch base overall on what they're doing and what their ideas for preparedness and stuff would be for the city. Here with us today is Paul Perillo, and he is a federal emergency response official for FEMA Region 2, which is the region that we are in. Mr. Perillo.
It's all yours, sir.
Thank you.
I'll go down if you can.
First, I'd like to say I'm impressed that you took a minute to recognize what's going on in the world, because it's pretty ugly. Most of my colleagues, I'm the lone wolf back here in Region 2. Most of my colleagues are out there in Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and Texas and Florida. So we are at the tail end of the hurricane season, but it's the time when you really should start thinking about your preparedness efforts for the spring. You really need to start to be ready to be prepared. This is just a plain vanilla presentation that we just take around and show people that why they should be prepared, who they should be prepared. We can never forget that preparedness, recovery, responses, all at the local level, starts with the gentleman back here and goes up through the police department, fire department, the county, and then the state. And the state is the one who pulls the trigger for FEMA. So we understand that clearly. Well, FEMA's mission is to support our citizens and first responders and ensure that the nation works together to be ready, to prepare, and to be promoting sustainability. We need to prepare, we need to protect, we need to respond, we need to recover, and then we need to mitigate. The Presidential Directive 8 requires the involvement of everybody, not just the government. It's a systemic situation where I'm not going to read from the slide, I'm going to just ad-lib this because I'm a little more personal that way. It's a time where everybody needs to get together, the clergy, public officials, the fire department, the police department, public works, and everybody needs to be working and creating a whole community approach. And FEMA will come in behind you to help you with that and push you along the way. If you ever need FEMA to do any kind of presentations, any kind of training, we're there for you for that in our preparedness department. The really important steps in your plan should be informed, know what's going on, FEMA.gov, FEMA.gov, remember that, FEMA.gov, and just looking for preparations there. You should have a plan. You should have some sort of plan, not just your emergency plan, not your response plan, but an overall continuity plan. What happens if this building has no electricity? We have a generator. What happens if that generator doesn't work? We have an alternate site. So you need to have some kind of plan on how to keep government moving along. People on an individual basis at home should be building a kit, their own kit. If they have to get out of their home real quick, what do they need for the next 48 hours till help arrives? Help would be you people, help would be the Red Cross, help would be the county OEM, and help would be our state partners, and of course, FEMA. Over encapsulating all of that is the Red Cross. They're a tremendous asset, and many of your clergy organizations, we saw that response in Sandy. They were able to get to New Jersey fast, and what you're hearing, all the complaints right now in Puerto Rico, is because you can't drive there. You know, normal volunteers, normal Red Cross, normal anyone just can't get there quick enough. So FEMA cannot stress more to get everybody involved. The police chief, the fire chief, your OEM folks, your public safety folks, your parks and recreation people should be meeting no less than quarterly, and probably every other month during hurricane season, because this is a vulnerable area. This is Region 2 is the most vulnerable area for any kind of storm involvement. You would also think what's going on in the Caribbean, but when it hits here, it hits land, and the density is a big, big factor. What are some of the risks and vulnerabilities associated with hurricanes? You got to be thinking about what happens if a hurricane hits. What happens if a fire hits and it cuts out the gas main or the electrical power lines coming into Millville? What are we going to do to run the business tomorrow, next week, next month? You always got to be thinking about short-term hits. You could probably flex your muscles and handle that. But when you start to get long-term hits with electrical issues and road problems, this is far. This is off the beaten path. So you got to be thinking about, what do you want to stockpile? What do you want to stockpile for the police department? Are you storing cases of water? Are you storing MREs? I could tell you, I have my own Go kit. I have 2 daughters. We live, and most important, you're going to see later, pets. When we were doing any kind of response, I came back in November for Hurricane Matthew in the Carolinas. People would leave their dogs behind. They stayed, and they stayed in very dangerous circumstances. They live in mobile homes. They live in small homes. They live in 1,500 square foot custom-made manufactured homes, so they would not leave their dogs behind. And then you got to be wondering about, in your area, in your town, is there any hazardous material? The water hits that. What happens? Where will it go? You got to be thinking that in your plan. And I'm sure you're doing 90% of it, but I'm going to teach you another word and just put it in your vocabulary anytime. Exercise. You have to exercise your plans. Even if you get in a room and you do it on paper at a table. We just had a big Gotham Shield exercise. A nuclear device was set off on the viaduct on the way into the Lincoln Tunnel on a truck. We did it on paper, and day 1 is the first, what happens in the first 48 hours. Day 2, what happens in the first 30 days. Day 3, what happens in the first 90 days. And we just talked through all the different scenarios. And there's nothing wrong with 2 or 3 of you at times just get in a room and talking about, I don't know the factory, I don't know the geographic or demographics here, but is there anything, if it floods, that can hurt the community? And you can hurt groundwater. You got to be thinking about that at all times. Talk to your friends, talk to your family. Be constantly aware that I need to be prepared. FEMA has a mobile app. I cannot stress more. Everybody has some sort of phone. It works Android. It works on iPhones. It works on your computer itself, and it's just a plethora of information that can really help you. And then you could set it for alerts. You could set it for alerts for the zip code. You could set it for alerts for your county. It just gives you stuff. There's safety tips, how to stay safe before, during, and after. There's over 20 different types of hazards it talks about. Do yourself a favor, put that on there someday, and someday when you're sitting having a cup of coffee, go through it. It's very valuable. On that app, alerts from the National Weather Service. They don't come out every 2 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's every couple hours. When Mount Holly, that's close to here, does a new report, new forecast, it'll be on that. Safety tips, again, learn what to do before, during, and after. When do you evacuate? Should I evacuate? If I evacuate, what do I need? I'm a diabetic, I have a kit real quick in my refrigerator. I take 2 weeks of medicine with me in case I go. When I go to New York every day when I go to work, I take a week's worth of medicine with me in my personal kit. If I get stuck at the World Trade Center, that was one of the scenarios during the Gotham Shield exercise. Download the app, and it's even now, we just got it recently, they put it in the BlackBerry world, where it wasn't in the BlackBerry world because the old technology of BlackBerry wouldn't work. You can also go on Twitter, FEMA Region 2, to learn all kinds of stuff. New Jersey OEM has the best Twitter feed. I know the girl, Laura Conley, that runs it. She does a tremendous job. And frankly, I glean most of my information from New Jersey from her. Because she has her hand on the heartbeat. She's in the operations center in Trenton. They call it the Rock. You need to find out about disaster plans at work. Where do you work? What do you do? Children's school, do they have a plan? Other places where you spend a lot of family time. Know evacuation routes. Know how to get where you are and how to get out of where you are. When you go to a large place, movie theater, auditorium, gym, anything like that, look how to get out before you start your day, before you start having fun. God forbid something happens, you can get out. Situation in Las Vegas, there was only 3 exits in that big thing because they had to take gates up. I mean, they easily took the gates down and people were able to get out, but it took 4 or 5 minutes. The shooting was over 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Just think about that. Okay, if you're outside of your neighborhood, are you going to return home for a disaster? How are you going to get there? What are the main roads? You have 3 or 4 more roads. Don't rely on your GPS because sometimes during bad weather, GPS doesn't work. I found that out personally. On our website, there's an family emergency plan. All your different phone numbers, all your different things. And I can mail you some cards for yourself that you can keep in your wallet. It's a valuable tool. Something happens, you just open up. Because you can't rely on your cell phone because all your numbers in here, because if your cell phone goes dead, you're in trouble. While I'm on the subject of cell phones, I'm not pitching for anyone, but Amazon has a battery that works solar. It's like $25. It's the size of this. If you have a situation where you're out of power, you put it on the roof of your car, you plug it in. It'll slowly, but it'll charge your cell phone. And during storm times, you're not going to leave your cell phone on 24/7. You're going to leave it on certain times. You should plan with your family. If something happens in a storm, I put my cell phone on at 12, 3, 6, and 9. If you're cut off, say your children are in Stockton and they can't get here. I'm just using examples. You should have some kind of plan. You should also figure out a relative that lives 2 or 3 states from here that you can call Aunt Betty in Ohio and say, Aunt Betty, this is Cousin Paulie. My mother's going to check in with you. Just let her know that I'm okay. I'm at Stockton. I'm in my dorm. I'm good. You need to have that kind of plan. You need to be thinking about that. You got to teach children how to call 911. You got to teach your kids how to use a fire extinguisher in the house. Always have smoke detectors. I know most towns have the laws about that, but do they work? You got to keep kids understanding. And I add something to this, and it has nothing to do with FEMA. You know, in the old days, we used to say to kids, that policeman's going to get you if you don't behave. Don't do that anymore. That policeman's got to be their best friend in the case of an emergency, in the case of a disaster, in the case of a storm, in the case of an active shooter. I also teach active shooter in schools. We also do that if you want to do that. We also teach continuity. If you want to do continuity of government or continuity of schools, we can help you with that as well. We'll give you the materials, or we'll come and do it once for you, or teach you. But the point is, we want to be teaching kids how to get help, how to solve problems. I mean, there's times where, there could be a situation at the school, a gas leak, and everybody just runs out. But, sometimes it's chaos. All the kids don't get accounted for. Sometimes parents head to the schools. It's all in your planning and awareness. When planning, you folks, always, your access to functional needs. You got to be wondering what goes on in this building if someone can't get down the elevator. How does that happen? You know, you got to teach people. If it's somebody with a wheelchair, they get near the nearest stair. You all don't wait. You all go, and then you send emergency rescue personnel upstairs. You got to be thinking about that. Infants and young children. What happens with infants and young children in your home if the power goes out and you have to evacuate? If the power goes out and it's the middle of winter, do you have anything? Seniors, big problem. Big problem in Ocean County. I lived through Sandy with seniors, and you had to rip them out of their house. I mean, it was that bad. And then seniors with pets takes it to a whole nother level. You have no idea. You know, you're trying to do a rescue operation, and you got 40 guys there clearing the town, clearing a neighborhood or a business development or a sub-development, whatever you call it down here, and people don't want to leave. You got to put a X on their house. What's that for? Because you're not leaving. We know you're there. And we tell them, put your social security number, write it on your hand, write it on your arm, write it on your leg. Yeah, it's that bad. Trust me. Pet preparedness. There's a whole brochure at FEMA.gov under preparedness. If you go FEMA.gov or FEMA, if you just Google FEMA preparedness, it'll take you right to the preparedness page. There is so much information. You can download it. It's all in a PDF format. You could actually convert it to Word and personalize it to Millville, whatever you want to do. It makes sense, and I'm stressing, and I get really dramatic about preparedness because most things when people happen, they're not prepared. I saw it in my own neighborhood. The water was gushing up the street like a wave in the ocean, and we were bailing out of there. And I see my neighbors weren't leaving and didn't leave and got really stranded there for 10, 11 days. That the fire department had to go in and bring them water because you couldn't get them all out once the trouble hits. You got to prepare and build a kit, knowing what's going on. What do you do in this situation? What do you do in that situation? And what do you need? In your front hall closet, you need a bag that if you got to run for 48 hours, you have everything you need in that bag. Your charging cables, your medicine. If you have pills, put a week's worth in there, put them in a Ziploc bag, and go. Because there's times when storms sneak up or surges sneak up, and you got to get out of there kind of fast. In your kit, they're saying water and non-perishable food for 72 hours. Now you can buy a kit for $30 for 4 people for 72 hours. It's not the best tasting, but there's water in bags. There's all different kind of stuff. I have a Rubbermaid that you can douse it in the pool and it won't get wet inside. It's about $12. Powered radio, something with NOAA, couple flashlights, couple batteries, a basic first aid kit. All you need is cling, gauze, and Band-Aids. If you get hurt, if you get cut, you don't need all the fancy stuff. You know, you need a whistle, okay, because it's dark. When the power goes off, it's dark. A Mylar blanket. They're $2 a piece. God forbid you get stranded somewhere, stuck somewhere. You can get in your car and try to get out, and then you can't get out, and it's cold, it's a storm. You put this Mylar blanket on, and you think you're in Florida. I'm telling you, it's really good. Personal sanitation items, all of those wipes and all that stuff. A dust mask. In my kit, I have a piece of plastic with duct tape in case we get somewhere and we got to duct tape a room or a door. A wrench, a pair of pliers, a can opener, earplugs, and a little bit of cash. Grab your cash. You got to have cash. The FEMA people leave when they get deployed with $1,000 cash in their pocket because there's no ATM machines or credit cards right now in Puerto Rico. Some of them are there 3 weeks. And like I said, in a backpack, in a go kit, something with wheels. One of my go kits looks just like this briefcase back there. It's the same thing you put your laptop in. It'll hold enough stuff for you. If there's 4 years, have 4 years. You know, critical documents. The best thing is a Ziploc bag. They're 1.5 gallon Ziploc bags. You put all your stuff in there, even wherever it is in your safe right now. Put it all in there, zip it up, put it in the second bag, zip it up, put a card in there with your name on it in case somebody finds it, your cell phone number, your family's cell phone numbers, and ask your physician or pharmacist about storing your medication. Certain diabetic medication that has to be refrigerated, but there's a myth you can keep it for 24 to 48 hours as long as you don't put it in the sun. In the area, Citizen Corps, what do you have going on with that? Assess that. Citizen Corps could be a CERT. A Citizen Corps could be your local first aid squad, your local auxiliary, police auxiliary, but there's also Citizen Corps groups that could help you organize in this area. Because it's not going to be Mr. Ennis, or it's not going to be the mayor, it's not going to be this gentleman here, it's going to be the people saving themselves most of the time, helping neighbors, helping one another. I saw some films, some confidential films of what happened in Las Vegas. The people were amazing. People were taking tables in a tent and putting the sick and injured on a table, and 4 guys were running them to safety, putting them on the side of the road. The ambulances didn't have to come all the way in. I mean, it's just amazing what your citizens will do in an emergency. FEMA has a national preparedness Citizen Corps group. If you need to know about that, just get in touch with me, and we'll help you get that organized. I don't know, do you have a CERT in town?
We did, but we couldn't keep the membership up.
Okay, how about the county? Does the county have a CERT?
Yes.
Does any of your people belong to the county CERT?
I believe some of them are.
That's very important, because they'll bring the Millville message to the county for you, and back to the county. So I think that's very important. You have neighborhood watch programs. You have volunteer police. You have auxiliary. They're all becoming active when the auxiliary or your fire departments volunteer down here, right? Yeah. So they become first line. You know, they are so valuable. Speak to the employers in town. Make sure if they get off for a disaster, they get paid. I mean, it's just little things like that where you just got to keep prepared. Practice, prepare, exercise. Again, this is the CERT. You couldn't keep it going, but you should encourage people in your town to join that CERT. You know, people in school teachers, nurses. It's just a vital tool in a disaster. I will email this to anyone who wants this, but these are all the different preparedness things, different websites, and Red Cross. These are just great websites for you. I'll send it to you guys so you have it. Okay, so what does it mean to stay in a loop? Millville, police department, fire department, OEM, town commissioners. Then it's the Cumberland County OEM. Be plugged in with them. Have conversations about disasters, even if it's quarterly. It doesn't have to be anything formal. You don't even have to take minutes. Just put together ideas, concepts, and actions. And then County OEM has the New Jersey State, direct line to the New Jersey State Police OEM, whom I will tell you, I've been all over the country, and I don't usually say this outside of New Jersey. They are the best of the best. We are only one of 2 states that the state police run OEM. They are really, really good at it. And I am Paul Perillo from the National Preparedness Team. I'm a federal emergency response official. There's my information. If you need to email me, phone, call me, whatever works. If there's any questions, now's the time to ask. Is that good now? Listen, don't hesitate to call tomorrow, the next day, next week. You're going to think of something. Oh, I should ask him when he was here. Call me. Write me an email. And if I can't answer it, I will get you the answer. I gave you my card. I put it on your. I put my card in your. Okay, great. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and you're exactly right. While you were talking, I downloaded that app.
There you go.
So I have it
Did
on
you?
my city phone. Yes,
I'm proud
I
of
have
you.
it.
I really am.
Came up really, really quick.
It's quick.
So,
It's right there.
yep, it did. Any questions? Any questions from the public? For Mr. Perillo? No?
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it. Have a safe trip back.
I'm gonna quietly sneak out.
Okay.
Have a safe trip back. Have a safe trip back.
Thank you.
2-hour drive.
Do we have another representation? We're gonna have
Sherman's doing one.
Sherman, you're next.
Mr. Perillo took a lot of my thunder, though, so mine's going to be a lot more brief than it was going to be.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Commissioner Ennis wanted me to touch on some of our local stuff and information. Our Millville OEM team is available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We monitor events and situations locally, regionally, nationwide, and globally. Not only to be informed and prepared in case of the situation could happen here, but for lessons learned. Las Vegas or the hurricanes or any of the situations that have come up. There's actually a lessons learned website that a lot of the OEM coordinators and groups go to be more prepared in case something like that should happen here. We work closely with our local coordinators, county, state officials to be ready for any situation or request. We have an extensive emergency operations plan, which is reviewed annually by us here locally, and every 5 years goes to the state for recertification. Ours was recertified on May 23rd of 2016. Some of the things that affect our area, mostly weather is our problems. Winter storms, hurricanes, lightning, tornadoes, high winds. We've had some pretty high wind storms. I did some research on some hurricanes, which I found was surprising, that between 1851 and 2015, there was only 2 Category 1 hurricanes and no hurricanes that were classified as major that were direct hits. There's a difference between direct hits and coming by, from what I've also found. Most of the damage from hurricanes and stuff that are in our area come from the storm surge in the coastal regions. Flooding. We have localized flooding here, some tidal flooding when we have certain high tides and stuff like that. A lot of man-made situations here for us, hazardous material spills, terrorist attacks. Not saying it couldn't ever happen here, I just hope it doesn't. Hazardous material spills and stuff like that are handled by the city fire department and the county hazmat team. Most of those calls the public are never aware of. It's not because we're trying to hide anything, it's just that the department and the teams are so quick at what they do that they usually get it done and over with before it, gets bigger. If for any reason we should have something like Pennsauken or something like that happen, those teams would be called immediately, as well as regional teams. Most of the hazardous material spills that we've had do not require any kind of evacuation. They're handled either in-house or at the scene. Fuel spills, chlorine spills, small things like that. We have natural disasters, earthquake. We're not really in an earthquake zone. There's only one fault line in the state of New Jersey. That's up in Ramapo. There's been no recorded epicenters in Cumberland County since records have been kept. Our evacuation routes in the city of Millville are most of our major roadways, Route 47, 49, 55, Main Road, that kind of thing. We don't announce the evacuation routes far ahead of time because Millville sits so that we are usually the town that the shore towns evacuate to or through. So we have to coordinate with not only our county, but with Cape May County and Atlantic County to make sure that we aren't dumping all of our citizens onto the same roads that they are. It'll bottleneck. There's plans in effect for reverse 47 and 347, where they turn the highways completely around and it's only out traffic only. There's no in traffic. We exercise that. They usually do that once every couple of years. So we really have to coordinate any evacuations with the county and our local other municipalities. If the need should ever arise and the time allows, a pre-planned evacuation route will be posted to city websites, Facebook pages, social media, radio, TV, reverse 911s, that type of thing. Evacuations are a precise and controlled, coordinated event. We have to make sure that everybody's on the same page when we do evacuate. You may hear terms like shelter in place, which means you stay either at the business that you're at or at the residence that you're at, and you shelter in place there, as opposed to going out into danger. As far as sheltering in Millville, when we go to open a shelter, we're partnered with the Millville school system to provide shelters when needed. Mostly all of the Millville public schools are listed as shelters, and we have those shelters in our emergency plan. They're approved by the Red Cross and certified as shelters, and we have shelter agreements with the school, OEM, and the Red Cross. The Red Cross is usually the ones who provide the equipment and everything to set up shelters. We do not announce shelters days in advance because people will show up there as soon as we announce it. If there's a hurricane coming and it's still off the coast of Florida and we announce that Holly Heights is going to be a shelter, that night people will be lined up at the door of Holly Heights as a shelter. And we don't even know if it's going to get here or not. Most events are not shelter worthy, and residents are encouraged to shelter in place in their own homes unless the need arises for a shelter. Residents should not go to a school assuming that that is a shelter that is open or that any shelters have been named or staffed. Another problem we have is once we name a shelter and we decide that that shelter is going to be open, if we staff that shelter, the cost until the Red Cross gets there is on the city, which is I have no problem with, but we have to remember that. And then a lot of times, if you open a shelter too early, and I'll give an example, when the county had the Cumberland County College during Sandy, they had plans to open that. Word got out, and Atlantic County and Cape May County had 4 to 6 buses, New Jersey Transit buses there before the shelter was even open. So, and then they were supposed to go to Rutgers, but they all stopped here. And you can't once you have a shelter, you can't turn people away. Cooling and warming shelters will be advertised and announced if the need for those kind of shelters arises. Cooling center during the hot summer months. Some people just need to get out of their homes, cooling. A lot of our churches are helping out with that. Same way with warming centers. The same thing. If somebody doesn't have heat or something like that, we can open warming shelters. The Presbyterian Church has done that several times, as well as St. John Bosco. So it depends on the need and the temperatures. Code Blue and the initiative handle the Code Blue shelters. They have set criteria for those. So the homeless shelters and stuff like that are handled by Code Blue. Mr. Perillo talked about having a plan. I have several pamphlets that if anybody wants to get a hold of me, contact the office. They can email me through the city email. I can get those out to you. I'll hand deliver them, or they can pick them up. They can go to ready.gov is a website, the FEMA website that Mr. Perillo talked about. Ready.gov, redcross.org, FEMA.gov, they're all websites that have set criteria for your plans, for your kits. You don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars on a kit. It's all basic stuff that you have in your house. Everybody should build a kit. But when you build a kit, you have to make sure that you include every member of your family. just because you have your husband, wife, son, or daughter, doesn't mean you don't have grandmom or aunt or somebody like that that lives by themselves. Include them in with your family plan. Who's going to pick them up? Who's going to get a hold of them? Their pets. Seniors. Seniors tend to, like he was saying, they don't want to leave. They refuse to leave. They just, oh, I've been through it before, I'll just stay. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. You should be able to sustain, the kit should be able to sustain each member of your family for no less than 72 hours. I know he has said 48, but 72 is the normal amount now, for at least 3 days. 1 gallon of water per person per day for drinking and sanitation and cleaning. When you make a plan, make sure you know where you're going. Make sure you know where you're going to end up, and make sure where you're going to end up hasn't already had the disaster. If the hurricane is coming to New Jersey and you have relatives in North Carolina, they've already been hit. You don't want to leave New Jersey to go there. You want to go away from the hurricane, not towards it or towards where it's already been. Does anybody have any questions? He talked on really a lot more than that I had.
Sherman, how many times do you meet with the county in
Monthly.
reference to OEM?
Monthly.
Monthly.
Every third Thursday we're there.
Okay.
For the county. Every third Thursday. We exercise our plan. A lot of the exercises, like he was talking about, a lot of the exercises aren't public knowledge just because they're either a tabletop or a non-functional exercise where a lot of exercises, like we just had a big one with the state a couple of months ago. I was at work and participated in the exercise right from my desk at work. There were certain things we had to do. It was a program, the state uses E-Teams, which is a resource request back and forth between the state, counties, and local officials. There was a scenario, we requested things like bulldozers and people to work with them. That gets sent through to the county and up to the state, and it was just an exercise that way. So we're familiar with that program and stuff. We do tabletop exercises. A lot of times the fire chief and I will sit down, or the police chief will sit down. We exercise with the schools. So the plans are exercised. They're just not usually publicized exercises. A lot of times we have a full-scale exercise, like we had at Lakeside a couple of years ago, where the public can actually see that. But most of the time our exercises are in-house or tabletop. We call them tabletop exercises. Any other questions? Millville's an odd town because we're separated by a river. I was explaining this to Director Ennis that when we get word of an emergency or something like that that's coming, we split our resources. We send, fire resources and EMS resources to the west side of the river, and we keep stuff on the east side of the river. We try to have 2 of everything so that we can do that. Usually we do that. We plan and prepare ahead of time before before the public needs to do it. We already know what's going to go where. Like for a hurricane or something like that, we would plan. We have programs that's called HurEvac, and in that plan, it'll actually tell you 48 hours, 72 hours, 24 hours before the hurricane, you should be evacuating this, you should be preparing for this, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. So we use that program here, and we constant line of communication between us and the county and the state when stuff is going. The state sends out sit reps almost hourly. The weather service sends stuff out 3 or 4 times a day. We're constantly monitoring stuff like that. We get, even though stuff happens in Las Vegas or St. Thomas or somewhere like that, we get messages from the Rock and stuff like that constantly, all the time. So we're pretty much working all the time on preparedness and stuff.
Excellent. Any questions for Sherman? Not at all. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
We'll go back to number 4 now. We'll open up comments on agenda items only. Anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment on an agenda item, please step up to the mic, state your concerns, and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Seeing no one, I close the public comment portion on agenda items only. Old business, please.
There is no old business tonight, Mayor.
Discussion of commissioners. Commissioner Davis.
Not at this time, Mayor.
Commissioner Sui.
Engineers report, please.
Okay, good afternoon. I got to start off with some progress, some good news with obviously High Street that's been paved, the phase 1 and 2. So what's remaining with that is just the punch lists of items and the striping that'll be that has to be finished as well. So sticking with High Street, you also see on the agenda we're doing a grant application for that last section of High Street for a Safe Streets to Transit grant. And we're also doing a municipal aid grant for roadway for 6th Street, which will be a second round of funding for that. We've already received the
Can I interrupt you for a minute,
first
Brian?
round. Sure.
The last part of High Street, that doesn't include the intersection, correct?
At 47, you mean?
Right.
Right, it'll stop just short of that, like
Okay.
the DOT right away. Yeah.
Thank you.
So those are the grant applications for this coming year, 2018. That
And
we're applying
then,
for.
Brian, did you want to see if we could table that one, or was it going to get removed from the agenda?
Yeah,
It's
like
gonna be
item
deleted?
14
Okay.
on
We deleted
the
it, correct, Jean?
agenda.
It is deleted, she
Okay,
deleted it.
thank you.
We put that in there just in case we were going to apply for, because when you apply for grants, you can rank your grant applications. You can actually have 2 for municipal aid, you can have 2 for Safe Streets to Transit. And we're, early on, we're kind of deciding which one to go to which. So I guess item 14, we can strike that because we're just going to do the 2 applications, 1 for each. Yeah, that was item 14 in resolutions.
Could you elaborate as to why you decided to go with one instead of the other in case it comes up this evening?
Yeah, since 6th Street, since we already got funding for municipal aid the first round, I thought we had a better chance of getting funding for that for the second round for 6th Street, so we kept with that. And it was kind of a bigger project than the last section of High Street. But High Street, that last section also has crosswalks. There's a few areas where we could do sidewalks, so there's some pedestrian safety components that we can add at a project, so that made it a better candidate for the Safe Streets to Transit. Although it is a more competitive grant, I think we kind of weighed the options, and I think that would be our best chance of getting the most amount of funding between those 2 grants. So that was our main, because actually if we would go with municipal aid for the High Street, that last section, it's a shorter section. Like I said, I think we have a better chance this way as far as maximizing our funds. And then I think, I know we're talking about doing a bond, and typically with some of the bonds, we put in those projects in case we want to supplement them, or in the chance that you don't get the funding. There's a mechanism in place if the desire is to do those projects.
Thank you.
So that's another discussion. And other grants, actually other project, 3rd Street, we're pretty much, you'll see on the agenda, a final change order for that. That was kind of a minor one, and that's just to, I think it was just like a topsoil item, so it was just what was actually used on the project. That's to kind of finalize the project with the DOT, so we can start closing that one out. We've started closing that out, but that's just part of the process. And Vine Street, there's a couple punch list items we're waiting to finalize, but both of those are pretty much complete. Renaissance Center building, that's the roof project that's under construction. I've mentioned in the department head meeting there, there's a potential change order, and we can look at it either as they've submitted that change order, or we can do like a time and material type basis. In either case, either case is going to be over 5%, but it'd be under 20% from what they've submitted. So, that is an item. But just to tell you that that's a potential change order.
So that'll be time and material with an amount not to exceed.
Yeah. And basically what happened there, with the roof, when taking off the roof, there were certain components of the facade there, parapet wall, that weren't totally stable. So and that's basically to address those items. Not to get in too much detail, but that's what it's to address.
You can just fix that near the roof part. You don't have to fix the whole front.
I think that's another project. I mean, if you look at the facade, there's definitely some work that needs to be done on that. So, I mean, they do have, I think the roof will handle leaks that come from the roof, but there's, facade areas. We do have some pictures. There's, different facades.
I have some photos for the commission of the building. I've been trying to help Brian, with that project.
Was any of that damage caused by the roof leaking?
Some of it probably.
I think it's a mix.
How long ago was that done, that facade? Was that in the
3
80s?
years ago.
No,
They did part of it 3 years ago,
Oh.
not the whole thing.
no, never mind.
Some of it's just because it's an older structure.
Right,
Did you ever
yeah,
find out
probably.
the year, Brian?
I didn't get the exact year.
I mean, there's old timbers, actual rough cut, 1x10s. They're actually rough cut timbers. There's a lot of rot and decay. Some of the facade is so loose you can shake it with your hand. So we need to repair it, stabilize it, and make it safe.
That's not the part that was done 3 years ago.
I hope not.
I think the contractor had a lump sum change order. When you get into an old building, you don't know what you're going to find, so he's trying to cover himself. He agreed to work T&M, with us to try and reduce the cost.
Okay. And also, one of the other projects, the fire hall resurfacing, reviewing the floor systems that have been proposed. There's been different quotes that have been submitted. Some are above, some are below the threshold, but we just want to make sure we're getting the best system for what we're paying for. So there is an item on the agenda to, in the case it's we receive bids. There's an item on the agenda to advertise to receive bids for that.
We did get quotes for some of it. I guess the question is, we just go ahead and bid it, and then if the stuff that came under was okay, then we don't have to do it. So we're authorized to do it if we want to, right?
Right. That gives us an option, so our hands aren't tied.
Keep us from falling behind 2 more weeks.
What exactly are you planning on doing to the floor surface?
Re-epoxying the floor where the trucks park.
Yeah, they're going to remove the existing surface, epoxy surface, and reapply. And then there was different, they had different thicknesses that were proposed. It's a resurfacing.
I did reach out to Sika and some other contractors for different opinions on the floor system. Sika's going to send down one of their contractors to look at the fire hall. They thought the mill thickness was very conservative at 250 mils. That's a 1/4 inch thick floor system. I mean, we could probably go less depending on what the existing concrete looks like. I haven't been to the fire hall to see the floor surface myself, but we may be able to have a less system, maybe 125 mils, an 1/8 inch thick floor. We want to get another opinion from a manufacturer. And then, look at all the,
proposals and scopes and then make a decision on how to move forward.
And that's all I have on my end for now. If you have any other questions, I know Wayne's probably going to be an update on the treatment plant, but if there's any other questions you have.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to give you the update on the wastewater project. I just wanted to let you know we had our NJEIT inspection of our record keeping on how we're managing the project, how we're, doing our inspections, and we were given, a good approval rating by NJEIT. We just received that in the mail. Also, we just received our individual stormwater permit for the wastewater plant. As you recall, NJDEP and EPA had required us to pull a separate permit for the facility. We have the permit now, but along with that comes some other requirements that we'll have to meet deadlines on. So we just received the permit today. We're reviewing it, and we'll try to meet those deadlines as best we can. I just have a very brief update on the progress. Last month's progress was the north secondary clarifier mechanicals were installed, the RAS piping, the center column, the feed well, RAS box, the drive for the clarifier itself, the bridge to get out to the clarifier, the rakes, and all the sludge collection apparatus. We did a true plane test, which means we spun the clarifier at various quadrants to meet a survey baseline, and it was a perfect installation with 0 deviation. So the last one was about 1/16 of an inch within plane. This one was perfect. So we're really happy with that. The solids handling building, we completed the interior epoxy coatings, and we're also doing replacement of the 4-inch CMU veneer wall on the east side of the building that was demolished in the beginning of the project. We demoed roof curbs in the new building. We're working on the GAF roof system. I have some photos here to show the new roofing system going in. I have a sample too, just for a commission so you can see what you're paying for. We have about 6.5 inches of a roof system going on. This is the tapered roof where they construct the taper to the roof drains. They're putting in 8 roof drains in the roof system. They're drilling 18-inch diameter cores through 10 to 14 inches of concrete to put the roof drains in. So this is the polyiso installation built on a taper. There'll be a 2-inch layer underneath of this. There's a gypsum fiber board, which gives us a little fire resistance. And then there's a plastic roofing system. You can see each mill is about a 1/16 of an inch thick with a 20-year warranty. It's welded, heat welded together, and mechanically attached at the curves. So that work's ongoing right now. Right now we have 5 crews on the job working on various components, painting, electrical, concrete construction, the disc filter foundation's in, the walls are going in right now. I have some photos of that for the commission so you can see where the disc filter foundation is. Well, one of the most important parts or components of the work was the RAS bypass. We took the RAS pumping system offline on September 20th. That happened at 4:30 in the morning. We shut down the plant. We hooked up bypass pumping. We've been pumping about 1 million gallons a day through a bypass pump for the RAS at about 800 RPM. So that's been online. Just back to the disc filter a little bit, we're installing the horizontal and vertical reinforcing steel, the RAS bypass, north clarifier electrical duct bank was put in. We had 3 tractor and trailer loads of roofing materials that pretty much consumed the whole plant yard. There was roof insulation all over the yard. Now it's been staged to move that out of the way a little bit. Upcoming month's construction, finished the north and south secondary piping connections to the UV and the disc filter distribution box. complete the disc filter concrete channel construction and the filter foundations themselves. Bypass the wet well for the wet well repairs that we've discussed, in other times. We have to install new valves between the solids handling building and the sludge storage tanks. We're planning on dewatering the sludge storage tanks. Sal and the crew's working on that. We're hoping in another week we'll put those valves in. Complete the new roofing system. Install the RAS piping and the new RAS pumps. This is all that remains of the RAS pumps that were there. It's just a bolt and a piece of concrete. They're all gone. The building's empty. So that's an epoxy anchor from 1992 that held up very well. So that's the only thing that remains of that. Right now we're relying on the bypass completely.
Where do all your treasures go when you're done showing us?
I think Joe's keeping them over there.
He's leaving some of them here.
Oh, is that
We
what?
can take 'em with him.
I just wondered if they're all up in your office and different
In
places.
the office.
Okay. Think you want some? Oh, I do.
We also have large, 15-foot high RAS gates that have to go into the RAS wet well. We'll be putting them in as part of the RAS reconstruction. And all the valve vaults with the valving and meters will be reconstructed. Right now, we're working hard. We're still on schedule, contingent on the south and north primary clarifier delivery dates on November 16th. The thing that's throwing us out pretty far is the Kruger disc filters. They're not coming until January. So we're trying to push them to get them sooner. Our final completion date is still March 14th. So we're thinking we could still be done by then. But we could easily give the contractor an extension of time, but that ends up costing money for the contractor, and they would probably want a change order for that. So that's why we're trying really hard to meet the deadlines. We have the 3 approved change orders to date. I think there's a couple of photos I threw in here, the disc filter construction and the north clarifier, secondary clarifier. Now it's important to note we have a PCO number 30. We discussed it at the last meeting. Operations is having a horrible time trying to keep up with the algae growth on the UV channels. It's something that should have been, incorporated in the project. It was missed by the design. So we're looking at putting solid decking on the UV channels, and we're hoping that the cost would come in, on a favorable level. They're coming in high. The material cost alone was like $18,000. The total installation was just under $30,000 for a fiber composite decking system. So we're looking out putting aluminum diamond plate over top of the UV channels, hoping that cost will come in a lot lower. So we asked the contractor to look at that. So we're still reviewing that PCO. But we're hoping the number was a lot less. If it comes in better, we'll be asking for approval to move forward on that. Now we did find other monies in the contract. When you have a contract of this size, there's always a little give and take in some of the line items for repair on the tanks. We found enough money to pay for the vibration isolation couplings that we discussed at the last meeting. That was missed in the design. In every design or construction project I ever been on, they had those couplings, in line with the pump systems. So we need those. We're moving forward with that. We did find money to pay for it. We could do a PCO credit and a PCO cost. It'll be like a wash. That's probably the correct, way to do it. So I'm working on that.
And is there any responsibility to the person who designed the system? Because the algae part sounds like a major deal to me. The old system didn't have an algae problem, I'm assuming.
The old Litico system had an algae problem when it was installed, and plant operations had, I guess, some kind of tarp over top of the tank to stop the sunlight from, feeding the algae. We're trying to do something a little, better for operations. The tarp is, problematic to remove, and, with a grading system, a solid grading or aluminum diamond plate, at least you could lift it up to check the weirs and, for maintenance. So we're trying to do something, better than a tarp. It should have been in the upgrade. I don't know why it wasn't, the designer.
But the company
didn't pick
has
up
no
on it.
responsibility for that designed the project.
Yeah, I don't know that they would, pick up on responsibility,
Wasn't there.
from any funding or money-wise. I mean, if it was in the project, we'd be paying for it in the project. It was just missed. The only thing is we may have saved a few dollars if it was in the work. we'll never know that now. It's unfortunate, but it was missed. I have the PCO tracking sheet that shows those costs for the solid, the fiber decking, and I have some photos for the commissioners. Here's the bypass from 4:30 in the morning. We were all asleep when we did that. It's still dark out. That's all I had, commissioners. If you have any questions or you want to come down and see some of the components, we'd be happy to show you around.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I had separate two engineering questions. One, what's the status of the Lisa Marie Terrace project? You know? Right, I guess I'd send an email about that.
Yeah, there's, I think the property you're talking about, I know there's the Carmel Estates 1 and 2, where there's an issue with where I think where that trailer is.
Well, tractor trailer and a trailer.
Yeah. So the Carmel Estates projects, they have not filed their final plats or posted any bonds for that. But Lisa Marie, that abuts up to that as well. The only bonding that's left on that is like a small part for the stormwater basin, which is actually in the Carmel Estates project, but that was from the old developer. So I think the old developer's still named on the bond, so I'm not sure.
But are they allowed to leave the tractor trailer and the trailer there indefinitely? Because the project's done, they're saying they're working, so they're leaving it there. It's causing a problem. It's being broken into. So is there any recourse?
If it's part of that project's been done for years, the Lisa Marie project.
Okay.
That shouldn't be, yeah, I mean.
So can the city dispose of those two things then if they're not going to cooperate with it? I mean, what happens?
We towed stuff before that was left on city property.
Yeah, they can't use it to store a tractor trailer.
There's a tractor trailer and a separate trailer, like a house trailer. That was their office. So there's two things there.
And they're just sitting there and the project's over?
They're sitting there. The windows are now broken. Supposedly it's being vandalized and used for things that it shouldn't be used for. And it's a problem in the neighborhood. There's a lot of kids there.
Maybe the engineering office can ask them to remove those vehicles.
I mean, the code enforcement department went out and they sent a violation. Supposedly talked to the owner. Supposedly the owner won't do anything. I don't know. So I just didn't know from another angle, because I know that the same issue happened on Talmacello, and they were told to remove the tractor trailer. So I didn't know if something like that can be done on this also.
As I recall, when trailers were left on city property by the airport, we ended up having a couple of them towed. I know there was a process to do that.
I'm not sure if it's technically city property or not.
Oh.
That's what I don't know. I don't know who the cul-de-sac belongs to. It's on the dirt on the cul-de-sac.
Okay, so it could be in the right of way, or it could be on
Correct.
their property, or.
Correct.
If it's on the right of way, I think that we could tow it.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly which. Yeah.
Well, if you got to survey it to find out, survey it to find out.
Sorry to add to your list.
Maybe if they got a letter that the vehicles are going to get towed if they're not moved within a certain period of time, that'll motivate them to get them out of there.
We can look into that and see where that stands too with code enforcement. And
Well, I know they
We'll
just sent a
coordinate.
violation, so that'll be 10 days.
10 days.
And then they'll write a summons, and then court's backed up 2 months. So, then you're talking, that's too long. So I just didn't know if there was another way that it could legally be taken care of.
If you find out exactly where they're at, I guess that'll help.
Yeah, could at least find that out.
And then the other question I had is, I got an email about a Brownsfield grant seminar that looked interesting to me for someone. I didn't know. I didn't know if there was someone, that seemed like an engineering thing, or do you want me to find someone in my department? I think someone should take it.
Someone should. I'll talk to engineering, you talk to your department. We'll see who wants to go, who has time, and we'll send somebody.
I don't know who would go, Marcy,
I'm
from
not
us.
opposed to, as long as it's not a technical, I mean, is it it look,
I think it was how to apply for the Brownsfield grant, but I don't know if the technical component's going to be in there because there's a big engineering component in there. But I thought that was important if we ever get moving, because we had talked about following that procedure for the Brownsfield properties in the city to redevelop them quicker. So this would tell them how to do it.
I think we should vote right now and send Brian.
Well, Brian's
Be
over what? No,
careful.
wait. I don't want to do. I've done enough
Brian.
to him today. I don't want to add to anything else on that. But I don't
Poor
know.
guy, give him 3 new things to do every day.
That's what. So, Brian, since you're in charge, you get on you, but you can delegate it if you wish.
Brian didn't say no.
I just ran
No,
out of
he's
pages
just
here.
smiles and gives you.
Ran out of
He
pages.
gives you the look.
I'll have more room in my book.
Here, I have
No,
extra
but yeah,
paper.
yeah, well,
So I
No.
think we forwarded that
either I do
email.
it or delegate it.
talk about
We'll-
I don't know who you
can
sent
make
it. Did
sure
you
it
send it
gets-
to Joe?
no, I
Commissioner Sue?
just told you you should discuss it with Joe and ask me.
Okay, so we can forward
I can
the
forward it to
email.
him.
Yeah, I guess to Brian gets it now.
Okay.
Is he back though?
Yeah, he's
Yes,
been
he is
helping
back,
out with
He is back.
some of the landfill
It might be a
projects and-
webinar. I don't really remember that, so at least that might help.
Okay, yeah.
So you're sending a Brian.
Yeah, hey Brian, how's that? Is that better?
Yeah, Brian will do it, yeah. Hey, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay.
So
Anything
Regina,
else?
you'll send the email
I'll
over
right
for
now.
them? Okay.
Commissioner Sue, anything else?
Not that I can think of right now. Wait a minute, yeah, there was something on one of the resolutions for tonight.
Racetrack.
I circled it. Oh, tonight we're gonna be, voting on the, contract award to patch and pave for utility repairs. The other contractor also backed out. What my concern is if we don't award it, is that we'll be getting into cold weather pretty soon, so we won't be getting hot patch. And, rains and stuff, the cold patch doesn't hold up, so just ask you to consider that when you vote tonight.
All right. Anything else? Commissioner Parecka compare.
Marcy, did you want to?
It's time to discuss the best practice worksheet that has to go back up to the state on October 20th. And I sent all of you a copy of it. And there's 25 questions. We answered yes to 21 and no to 3 and 1 not applicable. So our score is 88%. That means that we can get 100% of our aid that's due to the city. But I still think that it might be important to look at those no's to see if at some point we can turn them into a yes. So the first one was the payment in lieu of taxes. I think the issue with that one is that no one is monitoring to make sure that the original reason why we gave them that payment in lieu of taxes is still being followed.
I know we're doing the abatements now,
Right.
and we're going to start working on the pods, but it has to be, what's the debt? Does it have to be done in this year? Because we could get it.
When you're answering the question, I could put on there hopes, and we're in the process of starting to review these on an annual basis, but they want a date as to when you're going to start enforcing this.
You can probably put yes for that then?
Okay. And then the second one is the Fair Labor Standards Act and paying of overtime to administrative staff. And the answer to that one is no, because there are some people in the administrative unit that do get overtime. That's really,
Who does? I'm curious.
Is that contractual?
not
right?
just that, but comp time is also included in the question.
paid.
And our contract actually reads that in emergency situations, they can earn comp time. And there-
Everybody. I know the chief gets it, but he's not in that
Yeah,
Okay,
but the
separate.
department heads do an emergency
also.
situation.
Okay, so this has to be in.
And we have a few confidential secretaries in there that it's actually in the contract that they're allowed to earn.
Overtime.
So should that be looked at, or I guess that has to stay, right?
Well,
Well,
they're
when
not
it's-
really, I'm not sure that they're really non-exempt employees. They happen to be in the admin contract, but by the IRS standards, I'm not sure that that's, department head or,
So we'd have to look closely at the IRS rules. They may be able to be exempt.
Do we know
I mean,
when they have used overtime or who has gotten overtime? Do we know the percentage of that?
In the case of the engineer, for example, we always let them use overtime because if it's a FEMA emergency
Right.
and you pay them overtime, you usually get reimbursed. So when you look at the administrative, the contract for the administrators, there's a verbiage in there to address that.
We
And then
pay it for
also-
snowstorms too.
Right.
No, we don't, because the engineer doesn't come in for snow removal.
Not snow engineer, but we pay department heads in
Yeah,
emergency
well-
for snowstorms. So we do pay overtime, as you know.
Right.
So, but in that case, if there is something like FEMA and they reimburse us,
I mean,
But the snowstorm, they don't, Mayor. So you couldn't do it
Well,
because of the snow.
In a FEMA emergency, if you're paying them overtime, what if it's not, I think they gather the information, and if it's not enough
Well, we're-
money to declare it an
I mean,
emergency.
we're arguing over
Okay.
something, but I think we're required
gotta
to
be a no.
comply with the Fair Labor Standards Act. I don't think it's an option, is it?
No, if they're exempt, they're exempt. That's really what it should be, and that's what the state's trying to do with this question.
Right.
If you're an exempt employee, you're an
But I
exempt
think we
employee.
have to negotiate it into the administrator's contract. That is the reason why I put no
So you have to
there,
put no
'cause
this
it's in
sheet.
the contract.
You have to put no,
until
because that's
we
not gonna get done.
negotiate it.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree with that.
Right, and then
Okay.
the last no was, as your municipality adopted an ordinance, resolution, regulation, or written policy eliminating longevity awards. We have, in the administrator's contract, we have, new hires are not getting longevity, but we're still paying longevity to, existing employees.
Which number was that, Marcy?
That's number 23.
But that says non-union employees.
Right, the administrative, we always consider that to be kind of non-union,
That's open for debate if it's a union or not. We're working on that.
right.
Okay, so we have to leave that one as no then.
Right, and it
too.
doesn't really hurt us, so I didn't really try to fight the fight. But those were the three, so. I thought we did good.
No, you did very good.
Very
as
good.
long as you're happy, we're happy.
I had a
I'm
question
always
here.
happy.
I had
No,
a
I don't-
question
we-
about number 21. Number 21's okay with a yes. I know we just had discussed that back and forth.
Right, I think I came to the conclusion that I was comfortable with the yes.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, Marcy, good job. Anything else, Commissioner?
Yes, we were going to talk about the proposals for the insurance
Okay.
broker.
You want to introduce them?
I don't know, Regina start?
Go ahead.
Now, just to give you some background information, in years past, we always went out for our insurance broker when we went out with our other RFPs later in October, early November. We then run into a problem that the broker is actually quoting your 2018 insurance now. So last year when we wrote our contract, we wrote in there that we would be allowed to go out earlier for the insurance broker. So that's what we did. We went out and got quotes. We received 3 quotes. One was from our present broker. We had 2 other new brokers that we have never dealt with before. So Commissioner Peck and I met with those brokers to make sure they understood what we needed and reviewed what their proposal was. The 3 proposals, the way the insurance is paid, it's paid as a commission on the premium. So the city doesn't actually write the check to the broker. The insurance company does. But by state law, when we pass the resolution, we have to define exactly the amount that we're paying the broker. If you add together our prescription, dental, vision, and life, Fort Dearborn life insurance policies, it's about $1 million worth of premiums a year. I could break it down, but that's what I'm dealing with. So one of the brokers came in at a flat $39,000, which is just about 4%. Our present broker, Allen Associates, came in with a varied where they wanted 3% on the, it's 2% on the prescription, 3% on the dental, and 10 on the life, and 10 on the vision. That comes out to about $29,000 and some odd dollars. The third proposal we had, the broker came in and said he was willing to do them all for 1.5%, which means his came out to about $15,000. So we went round and round, and dollars are always a big factor, and it looked like this would be the cost prudent to go with the lowest one. So the recommendation was to go with Anthony Parenti. He's based in Philadelphia, and he is attached to a national platform, ASCELA, ASCELA, and whereas he'll go out in this national platform to get his quotes and all. So the recommendation to the commission is to award to Anthony Parente. Now, I have to advise you that there's some risk involved in that. We have, we're awarding a broker. This isn't our quote, and I can't guarantee you that the new broker is going to come in with the same quote, that there's going to be a better situation. We don't know that. So when you look at everything, the big risk that you have to look at and deal with is the prescription plan right now. Our prescription plan mirrors the state prescription plan. We pay a little higher copay. And it's in an alliance. It's like a shared group of municipalities. It was created by our broker that we have now, and it's not exactly an insurance plan. So they came in with a 0% increase, and it's very close to the state increase, but the deal is when you put in our census, when you say how many family plans we have, how many single plans we have, how many parent-child plans we have, because they vary, and if you compare the premiums side by side, one premium's high, one premium's low, it ends up that it's actually a $30,000 difference cheaper if we stay with the alliance and do it than the state. I can't tell you the new broker could get a better prescription plan. I don't know, and they don't know. They can't get a claims history. The alliance group will not release a claims history, so it's a risk we're taking. The commission would have to decide that based on the policy, and that's what it is.
So what's the
Let me see if
consensus?
I understand this. So while we might, that it's possible we'd save money on the broker, it's also possible we would pay more for the insurance.
Right.
So my next question would be, is there a way that we can do both at the same time?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, if we're going to hire a broker to get an insurance plan, why
Well,
would we not know the cost of the insurance plan and how much the broker costs?
Well, the broker can't go get you quotes unless they're your broker. Like I can't.
Well, that's convenient. Where's that at in the law? Is that somewhere in the law, or?
What they told me they would require if we appointed them is letters that they would send to Horizon and each of our plans saying they represent us and that they would need a quote. That's what they.
What a circle.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we table this till the next meeting, so we can wrap our heads around this a little more.
Get some more information. I
Yeah,
think that's
we've
what
been
we ought to
sitting
do.
on this for a month. I just found out about it last night, so.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's some way that they could actually do that process before they're hired.
I mean, if they know what a plan is, and they know how many people you have in the plan.
The
then
claims
they ought to-
history is a big part of it.
What bothers me the most here is that she's telling us that we're taking a risk.
Yeah.
Well, we're
That's
always
the
taking
biggest thing.
a risk.
Well, no, but this is an outside company outside of the state of New Jersey that's coming in, throwing these nice numbers at us to lure us in. Remember, we're
No, they haven't given us any.
Well-
Their broker number's low, but they haven't given us any
Okay,
quotes.
well,
Let's see
the
that one.
number's low for the
Well,
broker.
I think that's why we need to table it, like Commissioner Davis said, and then do a little more research. I don't think there's a problem with that. Certainly looks like it's going to require more research.
Did Mr. Allen want to speak too? You wanted to speak?
Well, we're not doing the public
Right.
Portion,
But
so
can't he speak
if
as
the mayor
part?
wants to allow them to speak,
We need a
It's up to
motion
him.
to
yeah.
Yeah.
we
deviate
need a
from
motion
normal
to
order
open that
of
up.
business.
Make a motion, Mr. Allen, be allowed to speak.
Second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Mr. Allen, you have the mic.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I did prepare something that would be, it's bullet points, and it's something that would be more concise and would answer a lot of the questions that we're talking about here right now. I thought we were going to table that discussion, and I'm more than glad to. But I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in the business for 36 years, and we've been the broker here for 22 years. We are very, very public sector business is our life, and that's what we do. We deal with 75 public entities in the state of New Jersey right now. So what we were talking about, that trust, is what we took from all these years of experience. One of the problems that we were having is groups that are your size, 147 employees. We saw that over the years, the actual areas and companies and carriers that were willing to quote a group that size because of the volatility of prescription. We're talking about prescription alone right here, was almost down to nothing. So what we did was we went to, because we had a huge amount of business with prescription, we went to the carrier that we've been dealing with for 30 years, Benecard prescription plans. And we went to them and said, look, we have 6,000 employees, 20,000 members that we're willing to pool their risk. Would you be willing to work with us, and would you be willing to pool this risk? Because we have plans now that with 147 employees that you have, Humira, for an example, costs $100,000 a year. One claim. Your total premiums for your whole year is $750,000. So you have 147 employees with all families and members with them. So say you have 300 belly buttons, as we call them, belly buttons for all the people. If you had one Harvoni claim, which is a hepatitis C claim, that's $120,000. So you can see where I'm going with this. You can have 4 or 5 claims, and you're already up to where you're exceeding your premiums. So what we did was when we pooled the risk, we have $40 million worth of premiums, and that's still growing. So when we pool your risk, and the reason why you got a 0 increase is because all those pooled risks are allowing the smaller groups that may have a bad year, may not have a bad year. It's very cyclical, but if you have a bad year, you're going to get a 40% increase, and that's what was happening over the years. So what we did for 7 years now, we've stabilized our risk, and we've averaged right around 6%. The average trend for prescription over that same period of time is right around 10 to 12%. So we're well under trend. We're still, we're not doing anything but paying claims on a pooled risk basis. So when you're asking, are there other advantages to going out and looking at another carrier, there aren't any carriers out there. There may be 1 or 2 companies that are willing to maybe quote on it on a standalone basis, because you're not talking about putting your health in. Your health is in the state. And the reason why you're in the state with your health insurance is because we recommended it because your claims were horrific. We had it out of the state for years. We monitored the claims, and we put it back into the state because the state is what we call our insurer of last resort. They have one rate, one plan, not one plan, but they have plan designs. It's unilaterally. They make changes in the state. But the good news is if something ever happened, you could always get back in. You're doing very well, and you are 4% or so under the state, and the state got no increase this year also. So we've been as low as 10 or so % under the state rates over the years, but we're doing very well, and we're very stable with it. The reason why the question was is we're going to save, you're going to put costs going back into the state, almost $31,000. And if you went into the state, you're not going to probably be able to get back into the RX Alliance. That's just because what happens is you're going to go back in, your claims are going to be wherever they are. If you're lucky and your claims stay low, maybe you could get back in 2 years. But what I'm saying is our claims, our commissions, what we've done for years have been very, very, we feel that they're an ample amount of money, but we feel that they're fair. We're not coming in, this is an EUS contract, we're not coming in trying to lowball something and say, hey, we want to get in and we want to get our foot in the door. What we're getting is a fair amount of money for what we're doing. We provide service, we second to none. We have claim service and for your support staff that are in the HR department. We're always there. We're local. I live in Millville. We give back to Millville. We're very, very, we're very active in the area. So this isn't something that you can just look at and say, well, our broker is going to cost us a little bit more money. There's a lot more of moving parts of this than what you see. So I know I went on a little bit, and I have the information to document this.
Before I lose my train of thought, so what you're saying is other companies' rates have gone up, not the broker's rates, but the actual insurance company's rates have gone up further than the company you're dealing with. So perhaps a fair way to determine if this is a good deal or the other deal is better is to look at the companies they're dealing with, and probably somewhere the information on how much their rates went up is available.
Well, I quite honestly, my father told me 40 years ago to not downplay our competition. So you can do all you want to do with that, but we did research them because when somebody tells us who it is, this person is an accountant. This Anthony Parenti is an accountant.
Well, I'm not talking about the broker. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the company that would actually provide
Well,
the
I mean,
prescription coverage.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
You
but
see what I'm saying?
There are no other companies, but maybe one company that would even consider quoting it. But without claims, without claims information.
Well, I'm not asking about claims information. I'm saying if your company stayed whatever the growth rate was for the premium, let's just say it was 2%, and the other company's average rate over the last 4 years was 10%, then we would have a good idea of, well, that's crazy. And if it was 0%,
Yeah, but it's actually not the companies. It's actually the claims that are involved in it. So our block of business, it goes up based on our actual claims for our whole 6,000 employees.
so when a claim comes, I want to understand the claims process now. They take their card to the pharmacy, get the prescription or order it by mail, whatever, and the city never gets any information about those claims other than how much they are? Or they just get, how do we pay those claims, or you just comes right out of the pool and we never know?
The company pays it. The third-party administrator pays it.
premium.
So we just pay the premium. We have no way of getting that. Do you do business with anything other than public entities?
Yeah, we do private sector business. Small groups, large groups.
Okay.
But mostly public. We have 240 small groups from 2 to 20.
Yeah, I just wanted to know that because I was just trying to figure out if it would possibly be operable. What if you do business with private entities? It probably wouldn't be.
But you have your pool consists of 6,000
6,000 employees.
public sector employees.
Public sector, and it is a public employees benefits trust. It's a trust that we developed for public employees.
So, Regina, I know we got caught, even though the state benefits went up 0, our premium still increased a few $100,000.
They did.
So is that going to happen with the card also, potentially? Just
No.
because it says
No.
0 doesn't mean it's 0.
The rates are the rates. The rates
No,
from
their
last year are the
rates,
same.
So it's different than the state plan, how they're calculated.
No, well, first off, the part of the driven force on the increase with the health benefits is the fact that we added 9 more retirees than we had last year. So we have more lives that we're covering.
So will we also have more lives with the Benecard?
No,
So-
because the retirees are on
Don't get it.
they're on an insurance by the
Okay.
state.
And then what's going to happen with the vision, the dental, and the life insurance? That potentially could go up, I'm assuming?
The vision's in the middle of a multi-year contract, so it will not increase this.
And how?
And when's that up? Or your multi-year contract for you, not for us?
No,
for
no,
you.
we've signed a 2-year contract for the
So
vision.
that's up in another year then?
I think it was actually like 4 years, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
It was a total of 4-year, I believe it was a 4-year, either 3 or 4-year contract, and we're in the middle of that.
The other thing that
So
would.
we can't move that,
Well, I got
so
a
we
question
can't
about the
move
life
that
insurance,
anyhow
too.
then if we have.
You could. If you gave them notice, you can move it. I mean, to be honest with you, it's not something that, even though you're in the middle of a contract, you can always terminate the contract. But I mean, I have the facts of what your increases have been for. Just humor me for a little bit here. Your dental increase over the last 22 years has averaged 2.64%. Your vision increase over 17 years has averaged 2.56%. Your RX increase is 6.05% over the last 11 years. They're very, very good numbers. If I could sign up for these numbers for the next 11 years for prescription, I would sign up in a heartbeat. But what I'm saying is we have been managing these funds, all these benefits for you, and I think you're doing a real good job where you are. And we've evaluated other companies over the years while we were looking at these plans for the dental, the health, the RX, and the vision over the years. The fact of the matter is, with the RX Alliance, there is nowhere else that you can go that would be anywhere better than where you are by far, because of the pooled risk. And we have the Millville Board of Ed in it. We have the Vineland Board of Education, Bridgeton Board of Education. We have huge groups in the City of Vineland's in it, in the RX Alliance. We have smaller groups that are very little small groups, Commercial Township Board of Education, and little Brigantine, City of Brigantine. We have the Township of Pittsgrove's in it. We have roughly 30 groups in it. So they're all taking advantage of this, and it's working very well.
Do you also take care of the life insurance?
Yes.
which I find a little curious because it's not in any contract, but we're providing it. So you wouldn't have any idea how much the premium is for life insurance, would you?
Rick, it's very,
$735 for the monthly premium for the basic 15, and then there's a small rider for the accidental disability. It's like another 30. Like it's about $750 a month. So it's
$750 a
about
month per
$100 a
employee.
year per, and it's only the employees that have health benefits. That's the way it's been since I came. I know it's not written in anything. I've asked about it before.
Another tool for negotiations.
I'd be more than glad to.
For
to
the
be-
record, just give us your name, your business, because I don't think we did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Richard Allen, you need my address?
Just your business
Oh,
address.
Allen Associates, Vineland, New Jersey. That's Rick Alessandrini. He's Vice President of Allen Associates. I'd be more than glad to sit down with any of you and go over in more depth what we're talking about here. But I heard some of the, and thank you for letting me speak a little bit. I hope that enlightens you on what we're doing and what we've been doing over the years. And again, we're very thankful to be servicing the city of Millville for all these years. Very, very thankful.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
How many employees have the life insurance, Regina?
Just the one, but don't forget the retirees have it too, if they have health benefits.
Okay,
So I think it's over 200.
so 200.
It's about maybe
at,
240, because there's
say,
about
$8 a month is 960, 96
$100 a year almost, if you figure,
times.
times 200, so it's 20,000. It's a small $15,000
And
life
to-
insurance. I understand.
Not
so
to
people
mention they
understand.
have insurance through the
Right,
pension
they
system
have
as well.
3 times, they have 3 times their salary
Right.
through the regular pension system. I'm not real sure what the police have, it might be a little different.
Yeah.
But this is a separate plan that had something to do with when we were self-insured years ago, and it's $15,000 and a double indemnity on accidental, I believe it is. And it's if you have the health benefits. So during the time when you're retired and you have health benefits, you continue to have
And
this
it's
policy.
it's a term
It's
policy.
term policy, yes.
Any other questions?
I know.
Commissioner, you have anything else?
No.
No.
Okay.
Mayor, I still have a motion there to
Yep.
table
Ah.
this till next meeting. So in case
Have
we
a
have some more
second?
questions.
Do we have a second on the table?
Yeah, I have no problem
Don't
with
we do that in the regular?
Okay.
We can.
It's not on the meeting.
Well, so what
Right.
is, there's nothing to
All
table
All right,
then.
so, all right.
We
It's
just
not
had a
on the agenda,
discussion.
so it's
Now,
not-
we had things ready in case that we were gonna ask.
So we don't need to
Nothing's
table because it's
He
not
thought-
there.
He
Okay.
thought he was tabling the resolution,
Right.
correct?
Right, it's
Not
not
the
there yet.
Because you
discussion.
didn't have enough information, so.
Gotcha.
I absolutely have no problem with whichever way the commission decides to go. I need to advise you that if you opt to go to the state plan, they need 60 days notice, and the notice would have to be by November 1st.
I don't think that's an option if it's
I
a
don't think so either. That
$30,000
doesn't even,
increase.
yeah, that doesn't make
Exactly.
any
Okay, but I'm
sense.
just,
Yeah.
The
you
state
know, I
plan
don't,
makes no sense.
Right.
just,
Exactly.
I tell you everything, so.
No, I
So
appreciate
are we
that.
gonna table this for the next meeting? When are we gonna
It's
table?
not on the agenda.
Well, it's not on the agenda
have to table
tonight,
it.
There's
Mayor.
nothing to do.
Okay.
So, I don't know that we need to,
We don't
I
have to
mean, this
table
was
it.
just a discussion today. so-
Okay,
We
very
are
good.
gonna need to appoint a broker at some point, that you
Absolutely.
realize that,
Right.
okay, all right.
So that should be on the agenda.
Next
For the next meeting.
So, I mean, just be aware that it still has to be done before we can get, you know, we technically have quotes for next year from our present broker, but we have to have them appointed for him to actually.
So, because Commissioner Davis, you have a lot of questions, would you like to meet with Mr. Allen?
Yeah, I told him, I just met him earlier.
Sure.
You know, I still have some questions, but I'm gonna have to call the other guy too, or the other
Right,
person,
Sure, Parenti, I
Yes.
think it was. Sure. Okay,
and I'll take care of that.
all right, very
Thanks
good.
for giving that information.
Yes.
Well, if you let me too, I'd like to sit in, depending on when you meet.
Okay, yeah, we can arrange it.
All right, next item, we want to discuss the Violent Millville UEZ administration reimburse discussion. There was a letter, do you have that letter?
Oh, I got it.
It's
Yeah.
attached to the agenda.
Yes, I do.
Want to read it, Joe?
I'll be more than happy
Thank
to
you,
read it.
Mr. Allen. All right,
Thank you.
All right, it's addressed to the commission, all 5 of us.
right.
And it says, "Dear Sirs, Madam, I find myself very dismayed that I have to write this letter, but the continued failure of the city of Millville to adhere to the Vineland Millville UEZ Administrative Funding Agreement has brought me to this point. Since January of 2016, Millville's outstanding 30% reimbursement has gone unpaid, with the balance due growing to $30,587.52. I believe it is far past time that the city satisfies this obligation. Over the past 18 months, The City of Vineland administration and staff have worked in good faith to respond to reasonable requests for information from individual commissioners regarding the duties and services provided by the UEZ coordinator to all the businesses who reside within the respective zones. Further, as you know, the reimbursement amounts are not set and approved by the UEZ board as part of their annual budget process. Any concerns that various commissioners may have had regarding the UEZ budget should be addressed with your appointed representatives to that board. As we have worked to resolve this matter, all service requests received from Millville's businesses have been handled by the UEZ coordinator, as they always have, in a timely and professional manner. These businesses should not be penalized because of this situation, and I hope you would now show the same amount of respect for the taxpayers of the Vineland by properly remitting the previously approved reimbursements. As we move forward in resolving this matter, the City of Vineland would be happy to discuss any changes the Commission feels are necessary and appropriate to the current UEZ administration agreement or to the responsibilities of the UEZ coordinator. I thank you in advance for your anticipated cooperation. Please do not hesitate to call me should you wish this to discuss in more detail. And for the record, I called the mayor this morning.
Good.
And he didn't call me back. So there's a couple other things in here that kind of bother me. First of all, we don't have a funding agreement. Nobody has a copy of it. I left a message with the mayor's secretary. If he had that, I'd appreciate seeing it. Second of all, I had requested, reasonably I thought, through emails, the number of loans that the UEZ in Vineland administrates for us, and I pretty much was told by finance that we administer our own, so they apparently don't do that. I don't know, because they didn't respond to my request for the data. And I also asked them 18 months ago how many businesses they had talked to and helped fill out forms over the last year, and I did not get a response to that either. I thought those requests were reasonable. I don't see why those requests haven't been fulfilled. I don't know why our UEZ representative may or may not have been at any meetings that they should have been at.
That would be me.
At any rate, if you can show me a contract or show me a signed agreement, I'd love to see it.
Were you at the meeting when they discussed this, Mayor?
No, this letter came to all of us. I read the same letter. We had a meeting the time before, and there was a problem. And I do have records, Joe, I don't know if it says about how many businesses they've helped in Millville, but because I'm not in this SSI computer system, I can't log on.
What do you mean you're not in the SSI computer system?
They never got me a password. I've been trying to get on for 2 weeks.
You were issued a temporary password in the beginning like everybody else.
It's not good any longer.
Well, let me take care of this.
Wait, hold on.
I'm going to take care of that right now.
Joe,
Yeah.
let me finish.
Go ahead.
We spoke to Mike last week. He's working on it right now.
Did you had copies of that you were going to put in my mailbox?
I know,
never.
and I misplaced them, so I don't, and I'm trying to get them back on my computer and I can't get them.
Okay.
So
I
I will
mean-
call her tomorrow and get them sent back out to us.
This letter is very confusing to me because I went up with 2 other individuals from the city and met with them in the UEZ office. It was a positive meeting. We talked about, we knew there was a question of financing. They said, don't worry about it at the time. And they were going to come up with a plan moving forward of what we should contribute. And they were going to have the UEZ person come down to Millville a few days a month. And they were going to work with our department because we had people that were very, very good at word processing, pamphlets, marketing material. And they are poor at that. They're using the old UEZ pamphlet. They really couldn't give me a straight number of how many people from Millville, because they have to go to Vineland City Hall. They said not many. They do answer questions on the phone. We said we wanted to take that over, and that's why if they worked with us in the beginning and trained our personnel, we would be able to do. It was a good, I mean, I left there being happy and extremely optimistic that we could work together. And then when I got this letter, he was not in the meeting. So I take great offense at this letter. And I don't understand where it's coming from, that how something positive and moving forward can go backwards. I did speak to them about not coming to a meeting. They were afraid. I told them it was really just a fact-finding, but they didn't want to be put in the spot. And the person that does the work seems very good, very competent. She doesn't enjoy being in the public. So she didn't want to come at a commission meeting.
Which one is that?
I'll give you her name later. I don't want to throw her under the
Well, I got
bus.
2 of
I
them
mean,
here.
she's a very,
It's kind of in the letter.
she was very helpful to me.
Okay.
So, that wasn't a problem to me. So, I'm not sure what's going on.
I'm in the same boat that you guys
And I guess
are
did
in. I got
anybody-
that letter, everybody got the letter at the same time. I
Did
believe.
anybody from Millville go to the UEZ meeting? I mean, we have board members.
Go once, yeah, we do have board
Did
members.
any of them go?
I believe they were there.
Did they
yes.
stand up for Millville or try to find out any information of what was going on?
I know that one board member has contacted me and wanted to know why we weren't paying the bill. That's as far as I've gotten with that person.
So we could get a copy of the
I-
minutes and see what board member from Millville was
Well,
at any of those
the-
meetings?
They meet quarterly, so the minutes aren't approved yet. So when I asked to open them, I was told we can't open until they're
That has
approved.
changed, actually. They
Oh,
just
so
have
I
to
can-
stamp draft on it. That's actually new legislation.
Okay, so let's.
Oh, so you can get them
Yeah,
for
now,
me.
yeah, I
can
just
we
learned
send
that.
Can we
Oh,
addend them
okay.
or send an
All
open
right,
request
because
for
I-
them so we can see who was there and who wasn't?
You want me to send an open request?
Yes, I do.
And for the record also, I emailed them and said I would like to come to the board meeting, and they advised me it was not necessary.
Well, that's pretty
And I
interesting
didn't
since
push
it's a
it.
public meeting.
I didn't push it. I should have pushed it, but I trusted them.
Is it a public meeting?
Yeah.
So, that was my mistake. That won't happen again.
I bet it won't.
I'll reach out to those two ladies.
I don't think that
Via
will
email?
work, because that's how I reached out, and it was
Well, then
positive.
I'll-
Has to be with the mayor.
I'll call the
Perhaps
mayor.
we should draft a letter and send it to the mayor.
No, don't
I'll
start
call the
that.
More than
mayor.
happy to write it.
No, we don't want to do that yet.
Joe, I'll have an answer for you tomorrow. I'll call.
Thank you.
And then can you try to get the stats so we know?
Yes, I'll do that too. I don't know what I did with them. They might still be in my mailbox. Any other questions?
And when is the next meeting of the UEZ?
I think at the beginning of the year.
Because it's quarterly, so there should be
Yeah.
4 a year, I was
Yes,
told.
yes.
So Jeannie, can you find out from them too?
I
When you
can.
get asked the minutes, when the next meeting is?
I can, and just so you know, that's best practices. I don't know that that's actually completely approved, like statutorily.
What do you
The
mean?
draft minutes, because it's in our book, but our book is best practices for the clerk's guide.
Oh, so it
So I
depends
have
if
to-
Wyland does
they
best
do it or don't
practices
do
or
it.
not.
So it's still up for debate, in my opinion, and that's just
Well,
my
we can
opinion.
always appeal to the GRC and see what they say when they deny it.
That sounds like fun. Okay, sure.
We were making progress.
We'll
Well,
try to get those
seems to
minutes.
stop. So maybe we'll get progress again.
Yeah,
We'll try to
okay,
get those
sure.
minutes before Joe
Right.
blows
Joe
the
writes a
gasket.
letter.
Blows the gasket. Anything under new business?
Yes, under new business, there's a I had received from the Municipal Clerks Association of New Jersey a draft resolution expressing opposition to legislative proposals, specifically Senate Bill number 1045 and 1046, regarding the Open Public Meetings Act and Open Public Records Act. And I am respectfully requesting that the Commission oppose these Senate bills by this resolution at the next meeting. And I have a list of reasons why, and it's a little lengthy, but I can just break it down in a little nutshell. They would actually we would have to provide minors pertinent information, which is, to me, offensive. I have children. We'd have to come up with a software program that would redact the information without touching anything else in the document. It would have to be very specific to the things that are allowed to be redacted. It couldn't just be my marker.
Can I ask you about that? Why?
Please.
Why can't you do that with a marker instead of the software program? I didn't see that in the bill where it said it required a software program.
Okay, well, then Laura can't do it.
Well, I'm just saying because I know we send stuff to the lawyers to get that
I know
redacted
what you're
all the
saying.
time.
Okay, that's
Okay,
It
I'm
doesn't
just
say it in the
asking.
bill, but it was pretty specific that so if
Only the information that you
so-
could redact
right.
was right.
Okay,
Not,
you
that's the
can't.
only.
You couldn't just add things to the agenda at the last minute with it, like the Open Public Meetings Act. It would actually have to be on the agenda prior.
Where was that at? I didn't see that.
That was in.
What line was that?
It's in the summary. I don't know if Laura attached that.
I didn't see that
But
in the.
I can send that to you.
I appreciate it.
Sure. Okay.
It contradicted itself
I
when I read it.
like I do. I'm the records custodian. I don't have access to every single record, so I have to ask the
I
other
understand.
staff members to give me records. If they fail to give me certain documents, the state now requires that they're the ones at fault, not me as the city clerk. The GRC would find them at fault. They would be fine, or the city would be fine. Now it's coming back onto the city clerk as the records custodian, and I have a problem with that.
I mean, I like some of the stuff in the bill. I understand your concerns. So perhaps instead of asking them to oppose it, we ask them to amend it.
Okay, so you want to draft a separate resolution To amend it?
then, yeah, I mean, we're not gonna be able to do it today because we're gonna have to,
Oh, yeah, I wasn't planning to do it today.
right, so we'll have to, yeah, amend it, and I'll be more than happy to
I
sit
agree.
down with you and think what I, show you what I think needs to be amended.
I agree.
Personally, I don't have any problem releasing the names of juveniles if they did something and they're 15, 16, 17 years
It
old.
doesn't say if they did something.
I
it just
understand,
says-
well, fine, so what?
Well, but then, yeah, Brock, how can
to
they
be
get away
careful.
with that when
Yeah,
there's
be
so many
careful.
rules protecting
Yeah,
juveniles?
I don't Be think they're careful. talking about a criminal matter, but I'm thinking if the juvenile is referenced in, say, a police report or something like that, just as, a witness or something like that, that couldn't be redacted. I don't know if that is what they're saying or not. What position, Clark, what position is the league taking on this bill?
They're opposing it
Actually,
tremendously.
It's getting rid of the
They can
48
actually,
hours.
the sole purpose of, they can actually, under
She's
Oprah,
reading it right. It's getting
just
rid of it.
harass the public agency if they wanted
And-
to, and that's allowable.
And Jeannie, it says
Commissioner,
it's eliminating the 48 hours. It doesn't say, hold it, it says revise the provision that prohibits from acting on a matter not listed by eliminating a requirement that the agenda must be one for which notice was given 48.
That may well be, but my concern
Right.
isn't that. The concern I have is that when these requests are made, they can be so voluminous that we might have 2 or 3 employees on the 3rd floor that are going to have to drop everything else, and they're not going to be doing city business. They're going to be doing someone else's business, and we're not big enough to have an Oprah department.
Well, let me ask you something. Since all this stuff will be Oprah, why can't we just provide public access to all the documents that are available to the public anyway?
We're not allowed to do that under Oprah. Under
Can't do it?
Oprah, we have to provide it, and they can make
I
us.
underst-
They can specify how they want it provided. Isn't that correct?
I understand we don't have, under Oprah, we don't have, but in general, why don't we do it? Why don't we just have all the documents available? They're all scanned in.
Well, there's a right to know law already, so people can come in under the right to know law, and they can get many documents as you suggest already.
I understand the law says that they can have them when they ask for them. Why do we make them ask for them if we don't have to make them ask for them? In other words, if they're there and they can have them, why can't they just have them?
But you talked about changing that before, right?
Yeah,
And
you
didn't
opposed
wanna
that,
change
Commissioner.
We did discuss.
I don't recall that discussion.
Didn't we discuss
You
making it
definitely
simpler?
opposed that.
Yes, and you
That
didn't
was-
enjoy
you
it.
didn't like that at
I
all.
don't know why. Why didn't
Right.
I'm not sure why you were worried about the wrong stuff would be given out. I think
And then,
wasn't.
and then the other
Right,
problem
thank
is,
you.
I'm not worried about that anymore.
Oh, you changed
Well,
it.
yeah,
You can have email and some of them have to be redacted.
but the other.
Get that recorded, Joe?
But let me talk to you about the other problem, because it is a problem, and when I was at the league, it may not have been last year, it may have been the year before, and I met I think the mayor of Troy, and he was there, and he was speaking at this Oprah class, and the problem is there's a cottage industry of law firms that they don't care about the GRC, and they don't want to help you. So if you make a mistake, if you miss providing something,
The city's paying for that.
what they do is they will not talk to you. They won't say, hey, we think, in fact, there's a reporter here, and he's one of the nice guys, because if you make a mistake, he'll tell you. He'll call and he'll say, you might want to look at this because I really think you should provide this. I mean, he acts in good faith, and then you can reconsider and you can provide it. But I can tell you that there are law firms in North Jersey, and there's a cottage industry of lawyers, and what they do is they will run to the courthouse. You know why? Because even if you provide it, they then get attorney's fees, and there's no way out of it.
That's right.
And so you can pay thousands and thousands of dollars to lawyers of taxpayer money
And Commissioner-
because someone made a mistake, or someone didn't provide everything, or some staff person didn't give Jeannie everything that was needed within the time. And that's the thing that really, I think, is a problem. I don't think that's what the law was intended to do, because I think what the law really intended was that somebody like the unnamed reporter here would call and say, look, I think you're wrong, you should have provided this, and we provide it, and it's done, rather than, well, I'm going to run to court because I know I can get attorney's fees.
And Commissioner, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to clarify this. It does say it would amend the definition of the agenda, remove the language for which notice was given 48 hours prior to the meeting. Instead, the bill states no public body shall act upon a matter that is not listed on the agenda. Okay, things can be added, but you have to. It has to be of such urgency and importance that it's considered a public issue, a public safety issue.
It says that was amended,
The
that one, what you
committee
guys
amended
sent
it.
us. Yeah, it was, we have I guess we have the short version of what you're reading.
Maybe that got amended and changed.
Yeah, because it's saying that it's
Okay.
removed, it's they're not doing that. They revised it.
That's not what I have here. Okay.
So I don't know if we're looking at two different things, Jeannie,
Yeah,
the one,
yeah, they provided a summary, and so maybe they,
because I have committee amendments on mine that I'm
Okay.
looking under.
And I'll say this, on the part of the city, a lot of times, if it was a gray area, particularly if there were police records and things like that, I think we've tried to provide it. When we maybe could have said, okay, well, you know, this video of this drunk driving stop, we're gonna hold out on that, and we might have been able to do it. And sometimes I think we've gotten advice from various other agencies that it's okay. And I think what the city's done is we've said, no, let's just provide it, and we've tried to do that. So
we always try to be as transparent as possible, and I just think this provides a plethora of more information for the city clerks to have to retain and learn and know. And we just sent Laura to school to learn everything, and then we're going to relearn her and relearn myself. You know, so I just think it's going to be a big burden on the clerk's office.
I guess my question would be, does it actually increase any information that's available to the public or not?
I don't think it does. I just think it makes it more difficult for us to respond to these requests. And it sort of reminds me a little of COA. It's almost like, you know, you get trained and you get a infrastructure developed at considerable expense to answer these things in a timely way. And I can tell you, it takes a lot of her time. And then what they do is they change the law. It's like moving the goalposts. Now you have to, and then the courts haven't even interpreted this new law. So what are they gonna say something means? It's not always clear whether something should be provided or not. And sometimes, you know, you're darned if you do and darned if you don't.
Well, I'd like to go over it with you in more detail before I
Anytime.
change
What-
my mind again.
What's the deadline for this? Like
They're
when-
not going to vote on this until after the election.
There's a shocker.
Imagine that.
Okay.
Gee whiz, about that.
The only thing
Smart.
that this, reading this did remind me of, that we're supposed to be releasing the closed session minutes. I didn't know if we're doing anything about that.
There was a plethora of things in here. I don't have.
No, I'm just
I know
saying, we
already.
had talked about previously that
Going-
periodically, Brock, you were gonna look at the closed
Every
session.
6 months.
And
Every 6 months.
I think we're doing that.
Right.
we have been
Yes,
doing it?
yes.
That's all I was asking. I was
Yep,
just
I'm
checking up
sorry,
on that. Yeah, because it reminded me that we
Okay,
had said we
right.
were gonna do it, and I didn't know we were
Right.
doing
I
it.
think
Every
when
6
she
months.
got
Checking.
on board, that's one of the practices
That we started.
that the clerk
I
changed.
just wanna make sure
Yes,
we talked
we
and
are.
it is implemented. That was all.
Yeah.
It was, separate.
All right. Anything else on that subject?
No, Mayor.
No, but it might be a good opportunity now, Jeannie, the other changes you wanted to do, you might wanna bring them up again.
Good idea.
We've now reached the public comment portion of our meeting. Anyone would like to address the commission, please go to the podium, state your name, and address your concerns. And please limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Bless you.
Bless you. Seeing no one, I close the public comment portion of this meeting. Comments of commissioners. Commissioner Davis?
Not at this time.
Sui?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Peregrine Perry?
Yes, fine, no comments.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
You know what I forgot to talk about?